Hello, everyone. Welcome to Aging and Spirituality, where we explore ways to live a more fulfilling life after 60. I'm Chris Jensen.
I'm Kathy Lee. Hello, hello.
We're so happy to see you. And as always, we hope we have a very thought-provoking and helpful topic. Uh, we all, we often think of aging as decline, but what if it's an initiation? What about that? What if as we age, we don't lose things, we gain access to a deeper, quieter part of ourselves, what
Mhm.
some call the inner self or the true self? What if, as we get older, this deeper self begins to awaken and a part of us that isn't quite visible to us maybe when we're younger and busy striving, you know, maybe that comes through. Some people call it wisdom, others call it grace. Yogis, mystics, and I believe Buddhists and others like to think of it as our true self.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
love
one,
that word grace. That just feels perfectly right, doesn't it? You
yeah,
can tune in the grace of what's happening in your life. You're really on the right wavelength.
right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Our sense of self, when we're younger, it tends to be ambitious, curious, restless, wants to achieve and create and define itself. It also feels separate from others.
hmm
But as time passes, another dimension within us begins to stir. Our inner self, which is less interested in doing and more interested in being. It's less concerned with ambition and more focused on meaning.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to explore, how our inner self, our true self, shows up in our lives and how we can nourish it and welcome it as we age. So think back to your younger years. Many of us spent decades building families, careers, building identities. That drive is part of our sense of self, gives us energy and purpose when we're younger. It pushes us out into the world. But as time goes on, the drive to achieve begins to quiet down. Sometimes life forces it to, through retirement, children growing up, our bodies slowing us down. But many times it just shifts because our priorities change.
hmm
The enlightened people, they've had that inner shift maybe early in life, maybe some later. And in that quieting, a new voice kind of emerges for us. It doesn't measure life by promotions, possessions, or productivity. Instead, it kind of asks questions. What have I learned in life? Who have I loved and how deeply? How
hmm
deeply really have I loved? What am I leaving behind? How am I connected to something greater than myself? Across cultures, this idea isn't new. Many traditions honor elders, not just as older people, but as spiritual guides. In
hmm
Indigenous communities, for example, the wisdom keepers are revered because they see life from a broader, deeper perspective. In Eastern traditions, aging is often seen as a path toward enlightenment. Very often in India and back in the, time ago, people, after they did their families and had their careers, they sometimes went into monasteries or just had that quieter life to let that pure inner self come through. Even in everyday life, we see grandparents offering a kind and loving patience that may not have been as accessible to them when they were younger. And I know that's true. Being a grandparent now, I know that I am way more patient than I was when my daughter was the age of my grandson. So
Really? How is that different for you? I'd love to hear that. Like you were pretty patient mom,
I was a patient mom,
but
but
it's different.
it's different. Yeah, I'm more patient, and um, even, when he's off kilter, uh, there's just that quiet sense of let him just pick up on my energy and calm down. And
And but like you also don't have the fears you did when with your first baby, right? Because
that's
you never knew what was going to happen, and you
right,
always had to
right.
be
And
on ready.
right, you're right. And not being the parent, you're not totally responsible for them.
Yeah, but you still feel it. You just know that you got, oars in your boat that you didn't have before.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I don't know. I
When I
don't know
see
if I
my
would.
daughter with him, she's more patient with him than I remember being. So I must have been patient with her for her to do it. So
Yeah, she learned it
yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah. So this is the essence of our inner self. It's not the self that builds a life, but the self that distills meaning from it, that
Mhm.
brings more consciousness, not less of consciousness, but more consciousness, more spirit filled. So how do we know when the deeper self is awakening? It starts subtly. Maybe you feel less drawn to constant activity, more pulled towards silence or time in nature. You were just talking about how you were craving time in nature and something
Craving the
came up.
tree hugging.
Yeah,
Don't scare the listeners because yeah, as you get older, you want to hug trees. Okay, that just sounds a little dang weird, but
that's
so
true.
what?
No, it's good. It's
I'm
good.
a tree hugger now.
Yeah. So maybe grudges you once held are no longer important, and forgiveness seems easier. Or maybe you notice a longing to reconnect with spiritual practices, whether that's returning to a faith you once knew or discovering meditation, prayer, contemplative reading for the first time. For some, it shows up in relationships, slowing down enough to really listen. I mean, do you really listen when you're relating to someone? Because it makes a difference. When someone's really listening to you, you can tell. To hold space, to pass on stories and wisdom. For others, it shows up in creativity, maybe it's art or writing, it becomes less about achievement, but more about self-expression, more about truth. I mean, yogis often say the shift toward increased connection and compassion with others is our inner self-expression. And that's really important. When we look at others in a more kind, compassionate way, that's the true self coming through. The question becomes, how do we nourish this awakening? You know? So there's some very different ways to do this. One is through storytelling, taking the time to reflect on our lives and share those reflections, journaling, recording memories, or even telling stories to younger family members. That can be a kind of healing thing that opens you up a little bit. Another way is contemplation, meditation, prayer, mindful walks. Simply sitting in silence for a few minutes each day can give space to breathe. You know, uh, we do a practice in yoga, deep relaxation, where you just lie on the floor and you relax all your body parts. And I remember our teacher and guru once saying, someone asked him, if you could only teach people one thing, what would it be? And he said, I would teach them to deeply relax.
Mm.
Because when you are deeply relaxed, that lets this pure inner self come through.
And it's not easy to do when
No,
you think about going through your day and you're upright.
yeah, yeah,
It's hard. It's not easy to get into that full deep relaxation space as much as you want to.
yeah.
Life keeps coming at you. So it becomes quite a skill to be able to do that.
Yes, it sure does. Sure does. In yoga, we talk about there's a force within us, within our inner self, we call it vidya, which means going toward being more spiritual, more aligned with higher consciousness. And when we allow vidya to come through, we know exactly what to do that keeps us connected to others. It's the right thing that will help us align and do well. When we avoid it, when we go avidya, the other way, when we're pulled by what everyone else thinks or wants, we experience more karmas, more suffering, more unfulfillment. So we're going to do a yoga practice in a couple minutes. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some other things you can do, but then we'll do a yoga practice that can help you attune with this force that helps us go forward, the Vidya force that helps us go forward.
Good.
But service is another path. When we give our time and attention to others, not to achieve recognition, but simply to connect, we're feeding that deeper part of ourselves. Selfless service opens the door to unconditional love, compassion, and very deep connection with others. So, any service you do, helping a neighbor carry a package, that makes a difference. Doing some work for a charitable organization, anything you do that you do without expecting a reward, you'll find yourself uplifted. You'll find that energy taking you forward. So I want to offer first a short reflection, then the yoga practice that I mentioned. So maybe you prefer a reflection. So just imagine you're just taking a deep breath. You're sitting across from yourself. Not your younger self, not your older self, but your true self. Imagine this deeper self looking at you with kindness and patience. Just try to be open to it. What is this deeper self whispering to you? What wisdom does it want you to carry into the days ahead? That is worth spending some time on. We didn't spend too much time on it here, but just that few minutes, you probably could sense that kindness and the compassion of the true self. Just be open. What does it want? What's the next step for me? Just sit quietly like that and ask. So the yoga practice I wanted to do also, in addition to this, so that's really a major thing. If you can do that reflection, you'll be doing great because that true self will come through. But one of the things that comes up is people who maybe are rude to us or insulting or whatever it is that throws us into a little bit of a turmoil. Here's how you can shift that angst and that frustration that comes from that into an experience of the true self coming through. So what you want to do is try to sense that they are there, but you want to open your heart and try to sense what we call oneness. Try to sense a oneness with everyone, with them, with everyone. And then ask your true self, why am I experiencing this? That answer may be very, very interesting. Because I did this practice with someone that really irritated me. And what happened was I felt their pain. I felt their pain when I did it. When I tried to sense that oneness, that's what the true self wanted to show me. And as a result, I had a different way of relating to this person and it affected them. Now that may not happen. They may still be obnoxious, but there was a shift because what was coming from me was different. So try this one.
I had an experience of this just this morning. I've been trying to connect with somebody on a Zoom chat to talk about an opportunity, and that person was being very evasive, and I was thinking, oh, I should just let this go. And then she wanted to set up a call, and she sent me a link for a WhatsApp, and when I clicked it, she wasn't there at the appropriate time. And then she said, I didn't send you a link. And I was like, I'm looking right at it. Like, so the part of me wanted to just like have a conclusion, like, oh, just, get off my train. You know what I mean? But I didn't do that, which is really interesting. I did exactly what you're talking about here. I just left space for whatever it was going on with her to just like play itself out. And then I let her come back and say, well, how would you like to handle that? And so she wanted to send me her email and set up another call. Now, this might be somebody I don't end up working with because they just don't have the right attitude. But I was really proud of myself that I was able to just step back and not get emotionally caught up in it.
Yeah,
and just say, oh, just go away.
Right.
She doesn't know what's going on with that person. You never know what's going on in their life, right?
Right.
Oh,
Right. Somebody could be walking by and they're rude to you, but it's because maybe someone they love died. You don't know. You don't know what their
Yeah,
issue
you
is.
have no idea.
Like I felt this person's pain, that they were suffering. And so it's important. It's really important. So I hope this is helpful. I hope that you open to it because aging isn't just about our bodies getting older. It's about our spirit becoming fuller. Your inner self is waiting for you quietly, patiently, like a friend you've known all along who's just waiting for you to catch up.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt when you did that first exercise. Is soul was just saying, go, keep going deeper, just keep going deeper. Let your real self just keep coming through more
Yeah,
and more and more.
yeah,
You'll know the feeling of it. It's very fulfilling, and it's very like when I say fulfilling, like even inside your body, like you
yeah,
feel full, like this.
yeah,
You're just like
yeah,
really thrilled about everything that you're doing and excited about how you're doing it and all of that
yeah,
stuff. Just
yeah.
like I was talking about how much I love October. Did I talk about that in
Mhm.
I talked about that when I first talked to you. I love October so freaking much, and it's just like this ebullient kind of
Yeah,
energy. Every
mhm,
time I wake up, it's just like, oh, this just can't get any better.
yeah,
I love fall. I love the autumn. I love everything orange and pumpkin and everything. So
right.
that's how it feels when spirit's moving through you. You just feel really fulfilled,
Yes, that's great.
satisfied, happy,
That's
all
it
the
right there.
beautiful
That's it
things.
right
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
that's it.
That's the shift.
There you go. We shifted into good spirit stuff.
Yes. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope you open to it, open to your inner self coming through. And let us know. We'd love to hear from you. See us on our YouTube channel and love us, subscribe, send us your comments. We want to hear. We want to know if this helped you. We want to know if you want to hear something else. So
Yeah,
we'll
we'd
see
love
you.
it. See you
Bye.
next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.